Hello again, this is Andy from Altered Reality. This video is intended to give you a quick walkthrough of what steps are necessary to integrate Sage into your game from beginning to end. As well, it should give you a good idea of why Sage is incredibly useful to have in any game project. A lot of this tutorial will skim over the details of specific functions. For more details, please see the intro tutorial or stay tuned for further detailed tutorials. So let's just go ahead and jump right in and show how to actually use Sage in your game. First, you need to make sure that you have a level loaded with an instance of the character you want to animate. So I will go ahead and create a new level and drop in my character prefab. And now you see when I go ahead and actually play this level, it shows the character but it doesn't actually do anything. The next thing we need to do is create a Sage library for this character. I can do that by simply right-clicking on the folder, choosing Create Sage Library. I will go ahead and also rename this Demo Library. Make sure to select it in the inspector and then click Open in Sage Editor, which will then open the Sage Editor. For this example, all I want my character to be able to do is have an idle state and a move state. So I will need two variables to do this, speed and direction. So I'll go ahead and click Add Variable, name this one Speed, and I will leave min, max, and default alone as they are exactly what I need for this variable. However, I will go ahead and enable the limit change option, which will cause the variable to change over time when modified instead of changing instantly. And I'll leave these defaults as well. Now we need to add the direction variable. Go ahead and rename it. Set the min to -180, max to +180. This will indicate the direction the character should be moving in degrees. I'll also limit change as well. However, this time I will turn on wrap value. This makes the value circular, meaning that if the value is -170 and the new value is 170, that it will approach the value using the fastest way. It would simply approach the min value, then wrap around to the max value. I'll also change the increase and decrease rates. Next, I'll create our main state machine and rename it main. And I'll leave the rest of the defaults alone. Next, I'll go ahead and add the states that my state machine will contain. First, I'll go ahead and scroll over here. In this case, it'll just be idle and move. First, I will create the idle state as an anim list node, as it will only be playing one animation. I will configure the node to use the idle animation. And I'll collapse it so that way it takes up less room in the graph. After that, I will create the move state, which will be a blend graph because we will want it to blend between different animations. I will also create two condition nodes that will control the transitions between the states. They will both compare against the speed variables and then cause a transition as soon as they become true. And that is my simple state machine. The last thing I need to do in my Sage library is to configure the blend graph for the move state. I can do that by simply clicking on the Edit button in the Move State node. First thing I need to do here is create a variable node for the direction variable. Then I need to add a blend node. And because I am blending between 4 animations, I need to add more blend outputs. Before adjusting blending, I need to connect the variable node to the blend source input on the blend node. Then I will also adjust the blend ranges, so that way it will properly blend between the animations based off of the input variable of direction. I need to then create the animation nodes that will point to my 4 directional walk animations. And I will go ahead and make them point to the proper animations. Three of these animations I can connect directly to the blend output. However, with the backwards animation node, I need to connect to 2 outputs using the max node. This is due to the fact that my input variable is set to wrap value. And that is all that is required to create a simple Sage library for your game. Next, we need to add a Sage controller to our character in the level and assign this new Sage library to it. So I will go ahead and select the character in the scene and add a Sage controller to it from Component, Sage, Sage controller. In the inspector, I need to go ahead and change the library asset property to point at our new Sage library. And lastly, we need to create a script to handle the player input and to update the variables in the Sage controller. I've already created a basic C# script that we will use to interact with the Sage controller. It simply contains a GUI function to display player input to the screen and a helper function to get the direction from -180 to +180 based off of the input axis. All other functionality is intentionally left blank. I'll go ahead and open up this script in the editor and go into the update function. First, I will create a local variable that is the axis from the player input. Then I will get the direction from the axis using my helper function. Also, I will take the magnitude of that axis as the speed. Next, I need to get the Sage controller from my game object. Then all I need to do is set the direction and speed variables on my controller. And that's all the coding we need to use our Sage controller. Simple as that. So, I will now go back into the Unity engine and I will select my character prefab and add my new script component to it. After that, I will simply start my level And now you can animate your character simply by pressing the directional arrows on your keyboard or the left thumbstick on your gamepad. And that is how simple it is to use Sage to create and control your character's animations both visually and easily. That concludes the game implementation walkthrough for Sage. For more detailed information on the various features of Sage, please stay tuned for the additional tutorials. Thank you for using Sage, and I hope you enjoy it. Feel free to let us know if you have any questions or feedback at all.